giant, marvelous crabs.
Well, hey there, everyone. Doggin Days here, and as you can see on screen, we have yet another release of Age of Annihilation Heroscape units. I believe this is Wave 4 of Age of Annihilation, and it's a story arc titled Boiling Tension. There are about 9 or 10 units released in this wave, including the promo figures, which we will cover in this video. And I am, once again, fairly late to the party. I think these units have been out for a little over a week. I've been in the process of a move, and so I wasn't able to get this video out right when the units released, but better late than never, you know? And I want to talk about the units today. Just as we've been doing in the previous installments of this series, I'm not doing anything like power rankings, I'm going to pull up the cards of these units, have them up on screen here, talk about their stats, their powers, gush over the beautiful sculpts, and offer my initial thoughts on these units and what I think their place in the game will be, whether that's in the ultra competitive scene or just as a fun unit to enjoy new mechanics for. So we'll go ahead and dive in to the first unit in this wave, and this is Air Marshall Zed Nesbitt. We've known about Zed Nesbitt for a while, for those who have been following the just general Age of Annihilation saga that began with the Avalon Hill campaign that did not succeed, unfortunately, but we've seen this design before, this sculpt and this character. We've known about him for a while, so it was just a matter of time. When is Renegade gonna release the blimp dude? So we've been really excited to see him. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and pull up the figure here. I think the series started out where I was like, I'm going to talk about the cards, and then it just ballooned. Ballooned! That was not intended. But it has expanded, ballooned into a series where I just look at the sculpts, talk a little bit about the story. It just turned into a reaction series, you know, and just a response series. So, but I hope it will be informed, and I hope you all will enjoy it and glean some information and insight from it. So anyway, looking at the sculpt right here, this, I believe, breaks new ground for Heroscape, or really is very loudly and prominently exploring a new niche of Heroscape unit design on the, you know, the sculpt side of things, where we actually have a vehicle in Heroscape. A lot of times, you know, maybe a unit, I think the closest thing we have to vehicles in Heroscape are, you know, cavalry, like in VC, there's the mounted Hrognak, and he's riding his giant Triceratops. He's sitting atop a howdah. I guess you could call that a vehicle, but it's technically he's riding a creature. But we have not seen a mechanized machine yet until this wave, where a hero, a character, is inside a vehicle and, you know, running around the battlefield on a vehicle. If I'm forgetting any vehicles in the past, feel free to let me know in the comments, but in any case, this is a very high-profile example of a vehicle, and it's not the only one in this wave. So I'm sure this is going to have incredible board presence, and just a really cool concept to imagine this dude in a blimp flying low to the ground and using his detachment from the ground for battlefield purposes. So really, really cool. But let's not spend forever on the figure. We should also talk about the card. So I'll blow it up here on screen, and let's begin. I do want to say, before we get into the figures, I want to have just a brief little rant on the faction of Valorak in general. I've heard some people complain about Valorak, thinking that comments saying they're not entirely sure Valorak has earned its place yet, you know, in the pantheon of Heroscape generals. You know, every general has its own aesthetic, its own niche, or it captures something. I like to think that if a general is well designed, you know, from a lore standpoint, you can summarize it in a single word. Aquila is nature, Vidar is high tech, Utkar is evil, Ular is fantasy, Einar is history. You know what I mean? You can generally look at a general, see their collection of units, and you can say, that's what that general is about. Well, first, I will say this. I'm not as down on Valorak as I've heard some people are. Personally, I like the lime green color. I think that it's a nice accent to the wheel of colors of the other generals. But even aside from that, first off, Valorak is still very early. We don't have many units for this faction quite yet, so there's still more time for this faction to be fleshed out. But I would argue, even with the few units that have been released already, there's a pretty clear character behind Volorak, or at least Volorak as a general. I think it's a she, right? She has a priority in terms of the units that she's summoning to Valhalla. So if Vidar is the high-tech general, so like the sophisticated technology, science fiction, if that's his shtick, Volorak to me is the general of industry, heavy industry. So I imagine Volorak, wherever her realm is, it's filled with factories, not necessarily like apocalyptic factories, not something like Blade Runner, but just like, Victorian steampunky factories, smoke towers, plumes of smoke into the air, and really powerful, like, Industrial Revolution-esque machines being rolled out of those factories. And it seems like the units that she's summoning appear to align with that aesthetic. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the Volorak faction. I'm personally pretty happy with it. I like what it's shaping up to be, and I do feel it is occupying at least a distinct enough niche in the game to justify itself. Okay, rant over. Let's talk about our boy here, Air Marshal Zed Nesbitt. One last thing I want to say on that point, I forgot. Zed Nesbitt, if you read his bio, he is a literal industrialist. That was his occupation on his homeworld, and when he was brought to Valhalla, the expertise and the skills and the assets he's bringing are a consequence of his industrialism, from his homeworld. So I feel like it could not get more clear as to what Volorak's priorities are. She likes industry and she likes industrialists, so she brought in Zed Nesbitt. Now let's actually take a look at the guy. So he's a Vorid from the new Vorid species, so often referred to as the steampunk furries. He looks like a fox or something, but in any case, he is from the Vorid race. He's a unique hero. He's a champion. So champion is an important class in Heroscape, but I don't think as a Volorak champion he has any particular synergies. None are coming to mind at this stage, but they may arrive later on down the road, and if I'm forgetting any, do let me know. And his personality is bold, his size is huge, 15, makes sense, and as a huge figure, he's going to have certain immunities from auto-destroy powers, and that makes sense. It shouldn't be easy to destroy something like this. Now let's take a look at his base stats. He has 6 life, again, it's good. He should have a lot of hit points for something this size. Defense is 3, so his survivability slightly above average with the extra 6 life, but maybe not quite as tanky as a figure, a sculpt of this size would have you believe. But then again, he is just a blimp, so maybe it's easier to take down than its size would suggest. Range of 6, so this is really cool. A lot of Age of Annihilation units, I've been noticing, there are exceptions, but generally it seems like Age of Annihilation, whenever they give base range to a unit, they don't want it to be, it's kind of 4 or 5, and very rarely 6. I don't think we've had many 7 base range units. There's the Ordo Borealis that can buff themselves to 7 range, but they have to cease movement for their turn to do that. So it seems like Age of Annihilation, 4 to 5 range tends to be what range units get in Renegade's Heroscape, and so it's nice to see that Nesbitt, Zed here, he's has 6 range, so he's on kind of the upper end of Renegade Age of Annihilation Heroscape range. I would say in Classic Heroscape, 6 range is about average, so it's not incredibly impressive on its own within Classic Heroscape, but within Renegade, it's a bit more, it raises an eyebrow, so it's cool to see that he has that 6 range, and then base attack of 3, nothing amazing, nothing to write home about. His price is 140 points, and so let's see what else goes into that 140 points besides his stats. So Skyhook here, after Air Marshal Zed Nesbitt finishes moving, if he used the flying special power during this movement, you may choose any number of friendly, small, or medium Vorids that Nesbitt passed over this turn. Place those figures adjacent to Nesbitt. Figures moved with Skyhook never take leaving engagement attacks. So, first of all, I think it's funny that it imagines that this thing would ever use anything other than its flying special power. If he used the flying special power this turn, yeah, like he's going to use anything other than flying. What's he going to do? Like crawl it over the ground? Does this thing have wheels? I don't think so. But in any case, I just thought that was kind of funny. But one of the reasons I think this is interesting is he's a double-spaced figure. And he can there does not appear to be, you may choose any number. There's no cap on the number of figures that could be moved with Skyhook. And so he only has 5 spaces. So, I think that's what, only 5 spaces he can, move across, and so only his maximum number of figures he could pick up is 5. But if you look at the figure itself, is a double space. It's a double space figure, so I believe that means if he lands in an area that is all empty spaces, he's got 8 spaces around him that he can deposit figures onto. So, I mean, this is, I imagine this would rarely be the case, but theoretically, you could fly him over 5 different Vorid figures, small and medium Vorid figures, and then move them all just across the board and deposit them all around him. I mean, I think it's cool. I don't know how competitive that is, or how I guess I don't know what the ultimate utility of that would be. But oh well, I guess this is part of it too. The fact that figures being moved by Skyhook never take leaving engagement attacks. So this could be a great way to rescue someone who's in danger. If like Tuck Harrigan, he's a unique hero, and he's I believe small. I think he's small. Well, I suppose we could check, couldn't we? Let's see here. I can pull that up now. Character biographies, and let's go to, where is he? It's really important that I get these right. So we have Rising Tide, and Tuck Harrigan is, let's see, he's a small. Not that it matters. I just want to get that point right. But in any case, Tuck Harrigan could be picked up by Zed Nesbitt if you wanted for whatever reason to protect Tuck and he was in danger. Zed Nesbitt could fly over him, grab him, rescue him. He wouldn't take any leave engagements, and you could deposit him somewhere safe. You could say, "Hey, I got you, buddy." Pick him up, and then drop him off somewhere away from danger. So, and then you could also protect any squad figures you might want to save, like the Vord Glide Strikers. Anyway, I think this will become more valuable as we get more units added to this faction, to the Vord faction. If we have like a really important hero that's smaller medium, not that Tuck isn't important, but maybe something that has like an aura or a protective ability that's really critical to protect, I think then this will have a lot of power and a lot of utility in the game. So anyway, I was impressed by the fact that there are no leaving engagement attacks taken when you grab a figure with Skyhook, and the fact that you could grab any number that you pass over. So hey, if you put Eldgrim on this card, or if you put Manauvi, who's from VC Heroscape, who can add. Actually, can Manauvi? No, I don't think Manauvi can. Let me check here. So, it's one thing I do, and now you can see it. For anyone new, I have the auto-load builder up on screen. So this is a community website where you can build armies, and it includes both Classic and VC Valhalla Customs. And so I tried to not only talk about the units within Classic Official Heroscape, but any synergies I can think of within VC Heroscape. So right now I want to check a unit called Manauvi. Okay, so he is from the Varkanen faction. And let's see, the Charging Assault. Warrior's Charging Spirit with a range of 1. Gotcha. Okay, so that's why I wanted to have that open and check. So you could not do that with you could not add Manauvi's +2 move spirit buff to Zed Nesbitt because he has a range of 6. But you could add Eldgrim. So if Eldgrim, the Viking champion, died, you could put this on Zed, and you can make his move 6 with flight. He could grab 6 people. That's a bit more experimental, but it's something you could do. So anyway, I do like Skyhook. Again, how competitive it is, I don't know, but it's something I will be very excited to try out once I get the figure in hand. Then we have Crash Landing Special Attack. So this special attack will take his attack from 3 to 5. I think that's very impressive, but let's read what it does. Nesbitt can only use Crash Landing Special Attack if he used the Flying Special Power this turn. Again, when would you not? But there you go. All figures adjacent to Nesbitt are affected by Crash Landing Special Attack. So an area of effect that's 5 attack. Amazing. Roll attack dice once for all affected figures. Each figure rolls defense dice separately. After using Crash Landing, you must place 1 wound marker on this army card, and Nesbitt cannot move normally for the rest of the round. Okay, so yeah, this is while there is that constraint at the end that you can't move normally, and you have to for the rest of the round, and you have to place a wound marker, and he's got six lives, so he does have some room to play around with this power, but not a lot if he's taken a lot of attrition from other attacking figures. The fact that it's still just an area of effect with 5 attack is really impressive. He's a double space figure, so he's affecting a very large. There's Tuck. Not that we don't like Tuck, but it's not what we're here to talk about. I'll pull up the figure itself, and we get to see double space. So he's affecting, I think, 8 hexes around him. Not that this would always happen in game, but let's say there was a cluster of enemy units, and you had 2 hexes of space, and you could land right there. You could crash land and just affect an entire area with 5 attack. There's Deathwalker 9000, classic Heroscape. He has his explosion. That's 4 attack. Lots of explosion powers are, 4 attack. It's not often you see an explosion or area of effect attack that's 5 like that. Even though you can only do it once per round and there's a punishment for doing it, I still think it could be very productive if you were to do it. So, I'm fairly impressed with Zed Nesbitt, but again, I think his ultimate strength will somewhat be determined by how much the Vorid faction is developed, and it seems like Renegade is intent on developing this faction more. So if we start seeing more important support heroes showing up in this faction, Zed Nesbitt's going to be an amazing way to protect them with Skyhook, and then also dish out his own punishment with a crash landing. But it does seem as though there is a risk to your own figures. So, if you were grabbing anyone with Skyhook, place those figures adjacent to Nesbitt. So I guess after he finishes moving, so I don't know, I don't think there's any restriction from using Skyhook and Crash Landing in the same turn, but it's something to think about, that if you were grabbing someone with Skyhook and then you chose to do Crash Landing in the same turn, probably pretty stupid to do that, but maybe if a situation called for it, you give it a go. But it sounds like you would also risk anyone you're grabbing, so it sounds like he grabs someone, puts it in this little cockpit here, and he would try to his crash land. It would also injure someone inside there. So anyway, that's my read on it. But overall, I like this guy, and I will want to play with him and see how he functions with other Vorids. And speaking of other Vorids, I think that's a perfect segue to go into our next Volorak unit. This is Imperator Kayne. Once again, a unit that we have known about from the Avalon Hill releases. This big walker dude, the steampunk walker dude. We've known about him for a while, and it's just only now have we finally gotten a hold of him. Really like the sculpt, man. I like the... It seems like there's different tones of gray in here. I don't know. I think painters will have a fun time with this one. I can't be the only one who's seen this. It appears to be like a little face that he's carved into it, or just unintentionally it looks like a face. I don't know, but it's a that'd be pretty intimidating to face to see that thing charging at you on a battlefield. So let's see what Imperator Kayne does himself. He is also a Vorid. He's a unique hero. He's a champion again, so yet another champion. Fearsome, and he's huge. So it's funny when I looked at the card when I looked at the figure before even reading the card, I would have pegged him as large, but so it is. He's huge, and that's nice because large figures have certain auto wound immunities from certain powers, but huge by far have the most. So it's nice that he gets that too. He's 130 points. He's 5 life, 5 move, 5 range. Again, 4 to 5 seems to be Renegade's preference in terms of base ranges to give units. So that about falls in line with other Age of Annihilation releases. Attack 3 and then defense of 4. So 4 is nice to see. It just makes it just a little bit tougher. Just a little tougher to take off those 5 lives. So anyway, that's... there is I think I've shared this before, but there's kind of it's a little reductive, and I don't always agree with it, but there's a formula to kind of check the rough survivability of a unit stat-wise, and it's just the lifetimes defense, very simply. So if we compare that, compare Zed Nesbitt, even though he's a massive figure, 6 times 3, that's 18, and you take that formula here to Kayne. 5 times 4, it's 20. So we might say that Kayne is just a little bit more survivable than Zed Nesbitt on that formula, if you agree with that. You don't have to, but it's there. So yeah, and then attack 3, it's nice that he has a base range, but the base attack 3, it is what it is. But let's look at what his power here is. It's Stomp 8. This makes me happy as a Torkulna player. We'll get into that. Once during Imperator Kayne's turn, at any point during his normal movement that he is on a space where he could end his movement, you may choose an adjacent small or medium figure whose level is no more than 5 levels above Kayne's level and roll the 20-sided die. If you roll 8 or higher, that figure receives one wound. I'm thinking of a move because of comparing it to Torkulna. So I'm sure it's been pointed out that there are similarities with this stomp power to Torkulna's trample stomp, so let's go ahead and pull up the great Morrow Hive Lord. Torkulna. I actually have my mouse away from my mic because I don't want it to pick up clicks super loudly, but here's our boy. Here's the big boy. Here's Torkulna, and his ability is Trample Stomp. So at any point while moving, Torkulna may choose a small or medium figure that is adjacent, on the same level, or on a space where Torkulna may end his movement. Roll the d20. If you roll a 1 through 7, figure safe. If you roll 8 through 20, the figure receives 1 wound. If the wound destroys the figure, move Torkulna onto the space the figure occupied, and you may continue Torkulna's movement. If the chosen figure is not destroyed, Torkulna's movement ends, and he must be on a space where he can end his movement each time he uses his power. So just like with Kayne, there's always a chance that the stomp is not going to work, so that's why they have that line in there. He has to be on a space where he can end his movement. But there's some pretty important differences from Torkulna's Trample Stomp. First of all, there is you can only do this once, it seems, once during Imperator Kayne's turn. So Torkulna, if he got lucky and if he was just mobbed by squad figures, best case scenario, he could, with 6 move, he could stomp 6 figures dead if he was able to chain his rolls there. But Kayne, it sounds like you have to pick a figure at some point, and it sounds like if you well, let me read this. It's at any point during his normal movement that he is on a space where he could end his movement. Let's see. You may choose an adjacent small medium figure, and you roll. If you roll 8 or higher, that figure receives 1 wound. As far as my read of this is that he does not have to stop his movement. It's just at any point during his normal movement. So it's sort of like if he destroys that figure with his stomp, he doesn't have to automatically move onto that space of that figure. He can kind of stomp it and then just stay on his place and keep moving. That's my read of it. If I have that wrong, let me know. But one danger anytime you're using Torkulna, or I guess now Imperator Kayne, is you can always fail the stomp. You can always fail the stomp. So this is the problem I see with Kayne. If you're adjacent to a figure and you attempt stomp, and you fail, then you're forced to attack that figure or another adjacent figure. So let's say you wanted to really make use of that 5 range. Let's say you were hoping for, I'm gonna rush by this one figure, stomp him, destroy him, and then keep moving Kayne, and then I'm gonna put him in a position where I can use his range to attack something nearby. The problem would be if you fail that stomp, you're stuck there, or I guess you could disengage. I guess there's nothing preventing you from doing that, but it's always risky. And I can see that as a possible problem, but maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. It's just sort of he's only 130 points. He can only do the stomp once per turn. I don't know. I'll want to play around with this guy a little bit more. I'm slightly less enamored with Kayne than I am with Zed Nesbitt. But again, stomp is an auto wound. It's a small and medium figure, and whose level is no more than 5 levels above Kayne's level. So it seems like he could move past someone who might have height on him, whereas Torkulna, his stomping is part of his movement. It seems like Stomp 8 is in addition to movement. I might have that completely wrong, but so maybe there's more that I'm not quite seeing here. But being able to run past a figure that you have height on, maybe a squad figure like an Omnicron sniper that has height, and you run by him with Imperator, and then you stomp him. that could be very significant, taking a Omnicron sniper off of height. So anyway, that's Kayne. Again, I think as the Vorid faction develops, I'll be interested in any synergies that become present. Certainly, he could not be skyhooked by Zed Nesbitt because he's huge. But again, I'm sure this is a faction they're intent on developing, and I will look forward to seeing what else comes. But yeah, I guess it's just nice as a Torkulnug player to see another unit that has some kind of stomp. It's so viscerally satisfying when you get that roll and just stomp, you're dead, boom. Just, I don't know, it's fun. So anyway, that's Imperator Kayne. Now we can go on to, we're returning now to another Renegade general, another Renegade faction, the Volorak faction, and this is also an existing race. This is the Strogg from Quake. I tease, but I think every time a new Izadek figure is released, I'm gonna make that obnoxious comparison to the Strogg. He just looks like Strogg. If you've played Quake 2 and Quake 4, it looks like Strogg. So anyway, this is an Izadek figure, and this is Scavorith, Lord of Ruin. Once again, a figure we have known about through Avalon Hill, but we have not, until this release, seen it officially released for Heroscape. Many are pointing out how just insane the artwork is for this figure, and just how you look at it and you just immediately get a sense of this character's personality. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not a big fan of the name, title of the It's not for me. That's just my own preference. Scavorith is an awesome name. That sounds like a name that would be given to a monstrosity like this, but Lord of Ruin, not my cup of tea. But hey, not a big deal. Ultimately, that's not what I play Heroscape for. So here's Scavorith. You can see he's just going crazy. He's screaming. You can see all the casings falling to the ground. And also too, you can see like there's like flesh here. He's got like a 6-pack right there. And so yeah, he's clearly a cyborg. The Izadek are clearly some kind of cyborg race. They've heavily augmented themselves with technology. Anyway, so I think not only does his sculpt look amazing and relentless, fearsome, but his powers also communicate that same personality as well. So let's go ahead and dive into those. No. Go ahead. Oh, fine, whatever. We'll do it that way. Tried to do the middle mouse button, but it wasn't cooperating. Okay, so here's Scavorith, Lord of Ruin. He is an Izadek, and he is a unique hero, and his class is Marauder. So Marauder is we've had this class for a while in Heroscape. It's nice to see it get recycled again for Age of Annihilation. Menacing is his personality, and he's huge. So again, he's going to get some auto wound powers, or immunities. He has some immunities from auto wound abilities. As an Izadek unique hero, he is going to pair well with Iron Lich Viscerat. So Iron Lich, as people who've been following Heroscape know, he's got his Ironclad Puppeteer, so after revealing an order marker on Viscerat and taking a turn with him, you may take a turn with another unique Izadek hero or squad you control. So again, just like the Vorids here, it seems like Renegade really is intent on building up the roster of units under the Izadek species, and they are going to be glued together by Viscerat. So I love armies that you have order marker flexibility. You don't have to think too hard. Just you can put all your markers on a commander unit and then activate units as you see fit across the board. So he's going to go great with Viscerat. So yeah, that's great to see. And let's look at his stats. So 7 life. Now this, even in classic Heroscape, that's on the upper end of life count. 4 defense. So that's 28 survivability if you go off that old formula. He's going to be tough to take down. 5 move, 1 range, 5 attack. That's appropriate given his sculpt and given what they're trying to communicate with this figure, but 5 attack, that's very good. That's very, very good. That'll get through many units' defenses very easily, or put some wounds on heroes pretty easily. So now let's look at his 185 points. That's a lot, but I do think any turn spent on Scavorith is going to be very productive and here's why, his powers. So we have here double burst special attack, range 4, attack 3. When Scavorith attacks with double burst, he may attack one additional time, targeting the same or different figures with each attack. It's great whenever you see a special power give you that offers multiple attacks, or a special attack that offers multiple attacks. It's always great to see that that attack can be used on the same figure or different ones. There's no limit. So first the one that comes to mind is Nilfheim. Nilfheim is extraordinarily powerful. He's an outstanding hyper-competitive unit, but his Ice Shard is challenging if you fail the first. So let's say let's say Nilfheim is engaged by a figure. He attempts Ice Shard on that figure he's engaged with, and he fails to destroy it. Well, then he can't use his remaining 2 Ice Shard attacks. He needs to destroy the figure he's engaged with, and he can't use Ice Shard on the same figure. So that is one way to deal with the powerhouse of Nilfheim, is to try to lock him up and engage him if he can get through his green scales, if they're present. But with Double Burst, and just like with another one that comes to mind is Q10, or Queglix with Q9, you can attack the same figure or different figures. So let's say Scavorith is engaged with a figure. You don't have to destroy it to keep attacking. You can attack it once, and then if that fails, you can attack it again. So yeah, Double Burst, it's just a no-nonsense effective special power, and it's great to see. And I mean, look at him. Of course he has something like this. Of course he does. So anyway, that's Double Burst special. Then Battle Surge. This is another reason I think this is one of the more thematic units in the game, or at least where the sculpt really complements the powers and abilities here. So after taking a turn with Scavorith, you may reveal an X order marker on this card to take one additional turn with him. You cannot use Double Burst special attack during this additional turn. If Scavorith does not attack a figure during the additional turn, Scavorith suffers 1 wound. I love it. 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 So first of all, as a power that forces you to reveal an X order marker, that's always, there's always a cost there. It's nice being able to, fake your opponent out, or keep an X order marker on a unit you don't intend to activate, but you want your opponent to maybe think you will activate. That can be very handy. So in order to use this, you're giving that up. However, many times with units that have an ability where you give up an X order marker, the reward is well worth it. You get a lot out of it for activating that X. So like with, I think of Siege from D&D Heroscape, he gets his Crag of Steel. He can then attack everyone around him, and he ups his defense to 7. Evar Scarcover has his Frost Rage ability. He can up his attack based on the number of wounds he's taken. There's a couple others, but X and VC has many units that have a bonus when you flip an X order marker on it. I think this is Scavorith is among the most, I think, offensively productive ability. This Battle Surge, that's one of the best things you can get out of an X order marker in the game, or at least that I'm aware of. You not only get to attack again, you get to take another turn, so you can move him again. You can, if he destroyed someone on his first turn and he's freed up, okay, activate that X, and now it's time to send him out to someone else. So it sounds like you can't use Double Burst during the additional turn, so you are confined to that 5 attack. 5 attacks, it's still very respectable. So your first turn, you do your Double Burst special, hit 2 figures, and then on your next turn, rush forward and hit something meatier, or something that has higher defense with that 5 attack. Or, importantly, you could just do 5 attack twice. That's 10 dice you just threw at your opponent. Or if you're doing the normal attack, you can buff that. You can buff that with glyphs. You can buff that with height. I think it's really impressive. I think so the fact that he, just on his own, he seems to offer quite a lot of offensive capability, but he's going to also bond with Iron Lich Viscerat, so he's going to be fit very nicely amid all the other Eisenecks, and you'll be able to take a turn with him anytime. And it says, after taking a turn with Scavorith, you may reveal an X order marker on this army card. So a lot of times, an ability will trigger only if you reveal an order marker on the card. So Battle Surge does not say you have to reveal an order marker on Scavorith to be able to use Battle Surge. You don't have to reveal a numbered order marker. I think of the Mind Flayer Mastermind has the Enslave power. If you want to use Enslave, you have to use an order marker on that. You have to reveal an order marker on that card specifically. So like, one experiment I thought of is, let's go ahead and pull up the Mind Flayer. So Mind Flayer, where is he? Here we go. Mind Flayer. So yeah, he's got it. So he's a Uthgar hero. He could, you could activate 2, and there is uncommon, so you could have multiple Mind Flayers in your army. But there's a unit, Ornak, who's the Uthgar flag bearer, and on turn 1 of a round, you can, instead of moving Ornak, you can take a full turn with two Uthgar heroes you control. So you could move 2 Mind Flayers with Ornak, but importantly, you could not use Enslave with them. So you could move them both, you could attack with them both, but neither of them could use Enslave because it requires that you reveal an order marker on the Mind Flayer, and you wouldn't do that if you were revealing an order marker on Ornak. That's all to say here that with Ironlich Viscera, I hope I'm staying coherent. My mind's going a mile a minute, but with Ironclad Puppeteer, you can put all of your order markers on Viscerat, so that you have that full order marker flexibility. He's your commander, and he just decides who moves where. You don't have to reveal an order marker to hit Battle Surge. So anyway, a very impressive unit. A lot of people are enjoying him, and we're anticipating Scavorith, and I will be very excited to see how he does in the competitive scene, especially with that emerging Eisenek army, or that Eisenek build. 185 points. I will be curious what Delta does to this, if it goes up or down in Delta over time. Right now, just looking at, I don't find that an objectionable price for what he offers. May even be low, who knows? But very impressive. And also, too, one last little thing, if I may. I like that there is a consequence. If he does not attack a figure during this additional turn, Scavorith suffers 1 wound. One of the reasons I like it is look at him. He looks like he just feeds off of combat, and he just needs to fight at all times. He needs to be dishing out attack at all times, almost like he's addicted to warfare. And if he isn't engaged in warfare actively at all times, he suffers withdrawals. I don't know if that's what they intended, but that was my initial read of it when I first read the card, and I just think, what a concept. What an amazing figure you'll be able to command on the board with a personality like that, addicted to combat, and he needs to attack or he suffers withdrawal. So anyway, great job. No, it's great. Great job to Renegade. I like this one quite a bit. Now going on from a unit that was much anticipated because we knew about it from Avalon Hill to a unit that I think took everyone by surprise and is the immediate fan favorite of this wave, and possibly of all of Heroscape. This is possibly, next to Doomed, the greatest unit released in Heroscape, period. And I'm not entertaining objections to that. That's it's just fact. We have the Molten Crustaceans, we have crabs in Heroscape, we have giant crabs with lava, bleeding out lava, and they look adorable. And he's got a little sword. Anyway, this is a hard unit just on appearance alone not to immediately fall in love with. It fits it's right at home within Heroscape, but it's just being able to tell your friends, hey, I played this tabletop game called Heroscape, and now I get to play with crabs. I do wonder if the name Boiling Tension was kind of a nod to this, like the designers were just thrilled at the idea of molten crabs, and just like, we're gonna allude to that in our, when we say, oh, upcoming is the wave, Boiling Tension, yeah, and then it's like they're just, I think they were having a lot of fun designing this, and certainly the whole community has just really come alive with love for the crabs. Look at him! He's got a little hammer. It's just great. But But let's go ahead and take a look at the card and stop gushing over the beautiful figures and the wonderful concept of just these crabs. It's very cool that it's Aquila that summoned them, and I believe in the lore these guys were summoned in an effort to retake the Volcaran wasteland. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is some relationship. These guys, they were summoned from Icaria, so they're actually from the homeworld of Heroscape's dragons. But they were summoned to Valhalla to try to to combat the Obsidian Guards, the Moltarn, the lava people on Valhalla. So anyway, let's talk about the wonderful crabs, the instantly fan favorite crabs. One thing I'm still deciding if I like this or not. So they're called Draco Stations because they come from the homeworld of the dragons, right? I don't so much mind the name, but it's like you call them here Molten Crustaceans, and then here you call them Draco Stations. Pick a lane. What are they called? Could you just call them Draco Stations? Molten Crustaceans? I don't know. Not the end of the world. No big deal. I may be dealing with an angry mob outside that I even levied any criticism against the crabs. Just so you know, when these guys came out, I think I was in my car, I was driving, and I was listening to the Renegade announcement of these units, and when they talked about the crabs, I think I actually screamed crabs in my car. I was just, anyway, consumed with joy, these delightful critters. So very important to note, this is of this wave. This wave has finally brought in common squads. We were waiting for it. We were waiting for common units to arrive in Heroscape, Age of Annihilation, and so they have. So now you can buy. It's nice because this unit is packaged with another common squad, so you can buy multiples of that set to build up your army if you so chose. But yes, we were all waiting for it, and I think I know they confirmed at some point that they were going to bring in common squads, but I think for a lot of us, initially we were like, Renegade's focused on unique units. When are they going to bring back commons? They've finally done it. So now it really feels like Heroscape under Renegade is fully evolving. It's fully coming into form. So anyway, they are a common squad. You can have as many of these crabbies as you have room to fit in your start zone. They're scavengers and they're relentless. So, of course, if you have your Kosamet, you can buff the crabs. But when would you do that? I don't know. But you could buff these crabs with Kosamet the Dark Lord. Let's look at their stats. 5 move. That seems, I don't know, kind of fast for a crab. I guess they are pretty big, but 5 move, not complaining. Range 1, and then attack 3, defense 3, 3 figures to a squad, 45 points. I don't think that's not a bad price to pay for that stat line in a 3 squad figure, especially given that they have all these other abilities. I don't think it's that. I don't know. It strikes me as okay. That strikes me as okay. Yeah. No objections. Let's talk about the main reason to draft them. Well, actually, maybe first let's knock out these other 2 powers. So, lava resistant. Obviously, they're not gonna face any consequences from ending their turn or ending the round on a lava space. They can move through molten lava. Great. But that does make them. Anytime you have an ability like lava resistant or some terrain specific ability, you begin to wonder: is this unit situational? Is this unit is going to work better on some maps and not others? So immediately that comes into play. However, the Molten Crustaceans, the crabs, bring a twist to that. They mix terrain dependency or a terrain bonus with this power here, Volcanic Carapace. So begin the game with 1 3-hex lava field with 3 1-hex lava field tiles and 1 1-hex molten lava tile for every squad of Molten Crustaceans in your army. So if you had 2 squads of these guys, you start the game with 6 lava field and 2 molten lava tiles. After a Molten Crustacean you control is destroyed by a normal attack or a leaving engagement attack, you must roll the d20 and place one of these tiles onto the space the figure occupied if the tile fits normally. If you roll a 19 or higher, place a molten lava tile, otherwise place a lava field tile. So this is I don't think I'll have. I could talk forever on this one ability here. I don't think there's enough. I don't want to keep you guys forever talking about this, but I don't know if we'll fully appreciate how powerful this could be until we get our hands on it. I'm not saying competitive, but I'm saying in terms of having an influence on a game, I think this could be pretty impressive. So it's a normal attack or a leaving engagement attack. So special attacks wouldn't trigger this. Okay, that sort of reduces its effectiveness, fine. But normal attacks, they're more common than special attacks, and leaving engagement attacks. After a Molten... So the Molten Crustacean has to be the one to do the damage in order to get the lava field to spawn on the map. And when they only have 3 attack, maybe that's not super likely. But if you, released a whole swarm of these guys into common squad chaff or, just low defense squad figures, imagine the amount of the board they could cover in lava and cover in molten lava even if they got lucky. One reason I really like this is because some units in Heroscape that have lava resistant power, like Brunak and especially the Obsidian Guards, they're not ultra... Certainly the Obsidian Guards are not that great in terms of the competitive scene. They don't... I don't know. They're not very good. Especially since their main strength comes from the fact that... they were a figure released in a terrain set, right? So the designers wanted you to use the Obsidian Guards with that specific terrain, but that terrain doesn't always appear on competitive maps, and if you were bringing the Obsidian Guards onto a competitive map that didn't have that lava, then they're really bad. So they really are map dependent. These guys at least can bring some lava to any map they go to. So you can turn any map you play on into a lava-ish map. 19 or higher is a pretty high roll to get that molten lava drop, and the Moltarn get a range bonus if they are on a molten lava space. But again, they can also end their turn. You could set up like height positions with lava field tiles, and a Moltarn or a crab could even jump on that. And I think that's kind of interesting too. Like you could even without the Obsidian Guards, you could set up a whole bunch of little height spots on lava that your crabs could jump onto, and they're not afraid of... They could just stay there, and they're not afraid of staying there through the end of the round because they have lava resistant. So they make the field more favorable to them. When they set up height spots with these lava, they increase the likelihood that they'll attack. They'll do the damage needed into someone they're adjacent to, so they buff their attack from 3 to 4. And then the more likely they are to destroy figures, the more likely they are to spread their lava around the board. I should note too, here it says after a Molten Crustacean you control is... Totally forget everything I was saying. I misread that entirely. After a Molten Crustacean you control is destroyed by a normal attack or a leaving engagement attack. Disregard everything I was saying. So their attack strength is not that important to this ability. What's most important is that they get destroyed, and they'll get destroyed pretty easily at 3 defense. That can... Most things can take that down fairly easily. So you have... I feel like you draft a huge swarm of these guys and you throw them at the opponent, see what they can do, and then the opponent has to deal with them in some way. And I like that no matter what happens to the Molten Crustacean, they will drop some form of lava. It might be molten lava if you're lucky, but you will always drop lava. So everywhere they go, they're just spreading lava everywhere. And so either way, even though I got that wrong here, they are still transforming the board in a meaningful way and making the board more favorable to lava-heavy or lava-resistant armies. So they could go well with Iron Golem, with Molten Claw, with Shurak, with Brunak. Think of all the different lava-resistant figures in the game that suddenly will have a new playground with the crabs here. So yeah, aside from their cute factor, aside from their meme factor, I guess you call it, I'm really interested to see how effective this volcanic carapace is going to be in large numbers. The other thing too is I think they will restrict a lot of units from certain areas of the board if they drop a lot of molten lava, and if they drop lava field tiles, because they're raising the height of that by 1 space. So even if someone wanted to climb it, that's 1 extra point of move that figure would have to spend to climb that hill. And I don't know. You could spend all day speculating on the utility of these guys. Again, I don't know how competitive they'll be, but I'm genuinely interested, and I think they may have a shot at least having some presence or at least making lava-resistant figures a bit more relevant in the game, or giving them new tools. So anyway, we love the crabs. We love the crabs. If you play Heroscape, you love the crabs. It's just how things are. So anyway, love the molten crustaceans. Love them. Love the crabs. If we spend any more time on them, we'll never get off them. So anyway, now let's move on to another common squad released in this wave. This is, I believe they're in the same pack, in fact. I double check that. But anyway, these are the Tanuki Tricksters. These guys are also Vorids. They are a 2-figure common squad. Here are the sculpts right here. And one interesting thing is they have 4 range. And as I'm looking right here, I don't see anything on their sculpts that would indicate they have 4 range. Maybe just like a little shuriken they have in their pouch and they just throw it out, you know. So anyway, let's go ahead and open up their card and see what these tricksters have to offer. So they are Vorids, and they are a common squad. So these guys can be picked up by Air Marshall Zed Nesbitt. So if you have a bunch of Tanuki Tricksters across the board, he could fly over 5 of them and pick them all up and move them. So let's go ahead and look at, so anyway, common squad, there's no limit to them. They are ninja, and ninja is important because there are a lot of ninjas both in classic and VC Heroscape. Let's look at ninja. Okay, so this is, I'm using Autoload Builder here. Here's the VC. So VC's checked. This includes both classic and VC units. So Ninjas of the Northern Wind, I believe these guys are the only ninja squad pre-Age of Annihilation. And they're a unique squad. They're in Delta, they're good. I don't know, in Standard they're 110 points. In Delta they go down to 70, so that's quite a discount. But 70 is not a bad price to pay for the Ninjas of the Northern Wind. But in any case, you can only have 1 squad of them. But the Tanuki Tricksters offer a let's go ahead and close these out here so we declutter a little bit. But the Tanuki Tricksters, you can have as many of them as you want. Now they are a 2-figure squad, and one reason 2-figure squads are tricky to make viable, I think, from a design standpoint. If you want to draft a 2-figure squad, there really has to be something that squad is bringing to the table to make it worth it. Having only 2 activations in a turn, it can hurt. It can really hurt. And 2 figures to attack with, if you're moving on a squad, it can really hurt. So how good these guys would do as a core, as an army core, I'm not sure. But maybe as like a little set of specialists, maybe. But I want to go here to the number of figures. So we go here just for an idea of how many figures, or how many 2-figure squads there are in the game. So there are some very good 2-figure squads, but they really have something special they're bringing. My favorite in the game are the Mezzademons, because of that. Poison Cloud is great, so they get a buff into common figures. Exoskeleton, that's the reason to play them. They basically have lives, but you decide where those lives are distributed. You decide if you want to destroy a figure, or if you want to spend the exoskeleton to shave off or to shrug off an attack that you got, that they took. So I like the Mezzademons, and I do think they're a good unit. Even though they're only 2 figures to a squad, they make up for it with that exoskeleton. Another one that's seen a lot of resurgence are the Death Knights of Valkyrie. So especially in the scene that I've been playing, the local scene I've been playing, Death Knights have made a huge resurgence with, Evil Raelin and Leviatech and all the other support that these guys seem to have gotten from Age of Annihilation. The Death Knights have been seeing a real resurgence. So they're only 2 figures to a squad, but they've got 5 defense, and their soul weapons is really great. You can subtract 2 from the defense of any figure they attack. And they can also bond. They bond with relentless heroes, so that's really good too. One example of a unit that I think struggles as a 2-figure unit are the Zedian Guards. Now they're down 50 points in Delta. In Classic they're 70, but in Delta they're down 20 points. So that's not as bad a price to pay for them. They're a unique squad, but again, they have high defense, which is cool. They're the only thing they bring, and high range. That's not bad either. Zedian targeting, it's okay. It's okay. Again, they're guards. They're not meant to do obscene damage. They're not meant to be your main powerhouse units. But again, that's a unit that comes to mind as in terms of like, I don't know if a 2-figure squad works in that scenario. Beak Fakes and Knees are kind of interesting. But anyway, the point is, for a 2-figure squad to work, it really is important that they have something to bring to the table in terms of their powers. Let's go ahead and look at their stats first before we get to powers. Move of 6 is great. They look like a move 6 figure, kind of slippery little critters, thieves in the night. They have a range of 4. Again, I don't know where that comes from. I think it must be from like a throwing knife or a shuriken, but that is cool that they have that. And then attack 3 is respectable for a figure as cheap as 45 points. This is where I like the Tanuki, is at their defense of 4. So they you could have many of them. They're cheap, 45 points. But not everything can take them down super easily. You could have common squad figures with average attack, and they might struggle to kill the Tanuki. So I don't know. I like that. It means they'll have a bit more staying power on the board, which is important since there's not going to be as many of them you can activate in a turn. So I actually like this stat line for only 45 points. That's not bad. And for 2 figures, maybe that's a consolation, or that maybe that's a a compromise worth making for this stat line, only 2 figures. But let's go ahead and take a look at their powers. So anyone who speaks Japanese or knows about ninja culture or ninja history, I don't know, is this Nage Waza or Nage Waza? I don't know. But anyway, that thing, Waza. I'm going to call it Waza, because that's fun to say. Before attacking with a Tanuki Trickster, you may choose an adjacent enemy small or medium figure and roll the d20. If you roll a 9 or higher, you may move the chosen figure 1 space. Tanuki Tricksters never make leaving engagement attacks against figures moved by Nagawaza. So, it just... there's another figure that this brings to mind, and that is the Hoplitron. This is a VC unit I'm quite fond of. It's a Soulborg common hero. They have something called Shield Push. After moving and before attacking with a Hoplitron, you may choose a small or medium figure. If you roll a 13 or higher, move the figure up to 1 space. So it's like he just slams his shield into a figure and pushes them back. Figures moved by Shield Push never take any leaving engagements, so similar to Waza here. If they're pushed by it, they won't. The tricksters will never take it. Will never give them a leaving engagement attack. Interesting. As I'm reading it here, a non-flying figure moved lower by shield push can receive any falling damage that may apply. And it seems like here that has not been added. That line has not been added. So I would be curious if we were playing as the tricksters and we pushed a figure with Waza, a flying figure, let's say a Kyrie. We pushed a Kyrie off a cliff. Does that Kyrie take falling damage, or does it survive? Does it avoid that damage? Because here it sounds like shield push. There's a line here that's excuse me. Disregard. Totally disregard. I misread. It's here. It says a non-flying figure moved lower by shield push can receive any falling damage that may apply. So non-flying figures. But here it says there is no line in there about pushing a non-flying figure and them taking damage. So anyway, if there's any designers watching, I'd be curious what the ruling is on that. If there's any special rule about flying versus non-flying figures being pushed off. Anyway, I like the idea of these guys on a lava map, and incidentally, we've got the crabs. There will be a way for us to increase the presence of lava on our boards. But imagine a crab dies and deposits some molten lava on the board, and you have a Tanuki Trickster run up and just punch someone into lava. You could destroy them instantly. So that's really cool. It says here has to be an enemy figure, so you can't push like an allied figure out of the way. You have to push enemy figures. 9 or higher is pretty good compared to the Hoplitron shield push. Like even 13 or higher is not bad in terms of a threshold for pushing, but 9 or higher, they're going to be pushing most of the people that they try this power on. So I don't know. This could be really fun to play with. And they can only do it twice in a turn, you make a Tanuki Trickster. So yeah, they've got 2 to a squad, so you can do this twice. I think that's really cool. Now it says here, you may choose an adjacent enemy small or medium figure. So my question is this: could you push the same figure twice in one turn? Could this guy here push a figure into this guy, and then this guy push him again? So could you kind of move them down like a little 2-space conga line? You could get them into a place you would prefer to attack them in. I don't know, but I don't see any wording here that would indicate that that can't be done. So a cool variant on shield push, especially for a squad. Very, very cool. Then here's Tanuki Aruki. After revealing an order marker on this army card and taking a turn with the Tricksters, you may move up to 2 smaller medium Vorid or Ninja figures you control that did not move this turn up to 3 spaces each. So these guys, maybe they are meant to be a core for the Vorid faction. Maybe you're supposed to draft a bunch of these guys into and alongside. Well, he wouldn't be moved by it, but Tuck Harrigan. I think right now, Tuck Harrigan's the only smaller medium hero for the Tanuki Tricksters, but you could also move the Glide Strikers. Again, this will become more interesting the more small and medium Vorids are added into the game. But this suggests to me that you might want to use these guys something like a core for the Vorid faction. You move up to 2 small and medium Vorid figures, so they can move themselves too. That's the other cool thing. After revealing an order markers after taking a turn. So yeah, you can only attack with 2 of them, but you can effectively move 4 of them in a turn. This reminds me, incidentally, of another VC squad, one that I actually covered on this channel, and I'll get back to covering VC on this channel at a later date, but the Beakface Sneaks, this is a 2-figure VC squad that follows Einar. They have the flocking ability. After taking a turn with Beakface Sneaks, if at least one Beakface Sneak attacked an opponent's figure, you may move up to 2 Reptorians you control that did not move or attack this turn up to 6 spaces each. So again, the move buff is a lot farther, and they have to be Raptorians, and it has to be Raptorians that did not move or attack. But here, it's only 3 spaces that you get to move them, and it does have to be a specific species, Vorid, or a class, Ninja, can do Ninja. But your Tricksters do not have to attack. After revealing an order marker and taking a turn, they don't have to attack. They can just move, and then you can activate the Tanuki Aruki, and then just move those 2 chosen figures without attacking. The Beakface Sneaks, they really encourage you to attack with them. You want the Sneaks to be striking, so you trigger the flocking. No such requirement here for the Tricksters. So that's a cool twist on that ability. And it will be fun to play with it. And let's go ahead and just remind ourselves of the Ninja roster in Heroscape, because not only would these guys be fun, I think, with the Vorids, but also as a common Ninja squad for a Ninja build, VC or otherwise, we now have a common squad of Ninjas you can build into your army. Was not previously the case. So we have Kantono Daishi here. You can see him kind of in the gray right there, the gray robed figure. He is a ninja hero, and he's kind of the commander. So here are all the classic Heroscape ninjas right here. They're surrounding him, and the idea is he is a commander for all the classic figures with dishonorable leadership. When revealing an order marker on Daishi after taking his turn, if he's unengaged, you may take a turn with one of the following that you control: 1 ninja squad or up to 2 ninja heroes you control. So with Daishi, you reveal an order marker and then take his turn. You could activate a squad of. You could take a full turn. Yeah. You may take a turn with one of the following. So okay, there you go. So unfortunately, Daishi, if you were to take a turn with the Tricksters, using his dishonorable leadership, you could not use Tanuki Aruki because you have to reveal an order marker on this card, if my reading of that is correct. So it sounds like either you would want to spend your order marker on this guy or on Kantono. They don't synergize as cleanly as I had hoped with Kantono, but nevertheless, you could spec them into a ninja army and have a core squad to play with there. But ninja figures, look at all the other. So Daishi is not; he's a Jonin. That's his class. But you could activate, or you could move with Tanuki Aruki. You could move Ninjas of the Northern Wind 3 spaces. Pick 2 of them and move them 3 spaces. You can move Isamu, Kumiko, Moriko, Otonashi, Shiori, and now Age of Annihilation Shiori too. So again, they have ninja synergy within Age of Annihilation already. So yeah, it's definitely cool. How competitive it is, no idea. But Phantom Walk, as with all ninjas, they have Phantom Walk. what is a Heroscape ninja without his ability to ghost through any figure that he wants? So total freedom to use that 6 move however they please. So yeah, a fun unit, no doubt. All of these units are going to be fun. I will be curious if there's any theory crafting or people experimenting with Tanuki Tricksters plus Kantono Daishi and the other classic ninjas. But anyway, that's yeah. So that's the Tanuki Tricksters right there. They are good for both the Vorids and for the ninjas. We will see what their ultimate place in the game is in time. So yeah, that's the Tanuki Tricksters, and now we'll get into yet another common unit in the game. We have in Renegade Heroscape, the Revnan Acolytes. So I think I've shared before that I think my favorite general in Heroscape now is becoming Revna. I think in the past it was Valkyrie, but Valkyrie's kind of non-canon, or his place in the story is ambiguous, and apparently it's very hinted that Revna killed Valkyrie, and she's sort of taken his place as the Lord of Death in the generals of Heroscape. So anyway, we have the Revnan Acolytes. These are her people. These are her devout followers. And as someone who is quite fond of the, let's pull them up here, Acolytes of Vorganund from VC Heroscape, just kind of a group of human cultists who follow Valkyrie and can bond with demons. Love those guys. Tons of fun. It is very cool to see kind of, an official equivalent of that. They play very differently than the Acolytes of Vorganund, but nevertheless, on an aesthetic level, these guys are it. It's just great. It's just great. Then we look at these beautiful sculpts here. One interesting thing to note is it appears as though these are the acolytes are made up of all different kinds of species across Valhalla. So right here you have a humanoid figure, might even be a undead human body right here, just 2 arms, 2 legs. Right here looks like an undead Kyrie with the wings right there, kind of those rotting, decaying wings. And then right here we see an undead figure with 4 arms. It reminds me of that one figure that is in the Knaves of the Silver Scimitar, that weird 4-armed figure. I wonder if this is an undead version of that figure. In any case, great to see that Revna, she welcomes all into her fold. It does not matter your species. It does not matter where you came from. All are welcome in Revna's cause. And that's why I like her. That's why I'll rep her any day of the week. You go, girl. You go, girl. All right. So anyway, super impressed with Revna. Love the faction, love the aesthetic. Let's look at the card itself. They are undead, and then people who know classic Heroscape, there are some abilities that are affected by undead. Undead have certain immunities, and there are some figures both in classic and VC Heroscape that get bonuses into undead. So that's worth thinking about. There are common squads. You can have as many of these guys as you want. They're acolytes and they're faithful. It's kind of I'm kind of sad that they didn't do Devout as their personality, because there is a guy, what's his name, Count Raymond. So he's a VC hero. He follows Einar. He has Devout leadership. All figures you control with a Devout personality move 1 additional space. The Acolytes of Vorganund from VC Heroscape are Devout. That could have been easy to just make them Devout, but hey, they're faithful, so they don't get that buff. It is what it is. So they're faithful, they're medium. Let's look at their stats. Really not super impressive. 5 move, 1 range, 2 attack, 2 defense, 1 life. However, 40 points for a 3-figure squad. It reminds me in classic Heroscape of the Blade Gruts. Blade Gruts have 2 attack, 2 defense, 6 move. There are also 4 figures to a squad. Blade Gruts are pretty solid as a unit. But let's see. But still, 40 points does not seem that harsh of a price to ask to pay for these guys. So anyway, let's go ahead and look at their powers and see what else is going into that 40 points. We have something called Hero Worship. While a hero you control who follows Revna, and that makes sense that they'd be restricted to Revna units. When a hero you control who follows Revna attacks with a normal attack or defends, if that hero is adjacent to 1 or more Revnan Acolyte you control, you may reroll 1 die. So let's go ahead and look at the roster of units under Revna. It's one of my favorite ways to organize auto-load a builder. So first, I'll go ahead and check off VC, because there is no VC for Revna. Yeah, so we have Hellforge Manticore, Viscerat, Kilkarax, Vayne, Miserx, Rakchot, and the Dragoon. So all of these units here could be get that reroll from the Acolytes on their either their defense or their normal attack. If we look here, no special attack, no special attack, no special attack. Killian Vane has his blunderbuss as special attack. Zerix, no special attack. Yes, Rakchat has a special attack with Soul Fury, and then Thyraxis Dragoon, no special attack. So most of Revna's heroes to date, they're going to be attacking with normal attacks, and so they'll get that ability to reroll. I mean, some of these, like Thyraxis Dragoon, has 5 attack. You could reroll 1. I mean, it could hurt. It could hurt. Never discount a reroll in Heroscape. That could really hurt. And also, too, I like Kilkarax as someone... By the way, anyone who's following this channel, I think Kilkarax is still my favorite sculpt in all of Age of Annihilation. I think I'm still standing by that. So anyway, love Kilkarax. She can potentially get Life Drain as an ability if Mizerix, the Kyrie warrior... it looks like Mizerix to me. Anyway, again, for Bionicle fans, that sounds like a Makuta name, right? Mizerix, right? I see Mizerix. Anyway, if Mizerix was to die, you could put Life Drain on Kilkarax, and so then Kilkarax is she can if she destroys a figure adjacent to her with her attack, she can heal a wound. If you have a Revnan Acolyte adjacent to Kilkarax while she has Life Drain active, she can re-roll an attack die there, and that increases the likelihood she's going to destroy a figure or do that damage. So I don't know. I think they would work great with Kilkarax, not to mention be incredibly thematic. I think they'll look amazing beside Kilkarax. But yeah, I like the idea of re-rolling with a Life Drain Kilkarax or with Life Drain on Mizerix. I think that's really cool. And then in terms of defense, the reroll on defense is impressive to me for the high defense figures like Thyraxis Dragoon. Like, you could... Does it say anything about... No, you don't have to be undead. You just need to follow Revna. So, not that you would necessarily do this, but if you had an Acolyte next to Thyraxis, and Thyraxis is rolling defense, you could reroll 1 defense die for a pretty robust defense of 5 defense with 1 reroll, 1 die reroll. That sounds pretty tough. And then I think Viscerat 4 defense, similarly pretty tough defense with 6 life. That's gonna be hard to kill him with reroll. Same with Manticore. Yeah, so the rerolls I think will be a lot of fun with the higher defense figures, but certainly a reroll on Kilkarax charged up by Mizerix. That's going to be something I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with. Again, is it competitive? Who cares? Who cares? It sounds fun. Who cares? Then Risen by Revna. At the start of each round, before placing order markers, you may place one of your destroyed Revnan Acolytes onto an empty space adjacent to a hero you control who follows Revna. So, this really encourages you to build your entire army in the Revna faction, which is great. They're a Revna unit. They literally have her emblem on a little handkerchief here. A little robe. Handkerchief? Robe? Whatever. Anyway, they are a Revna unit. It makes sense you'd build your army around Revna, or that the designers would encourage you to do that through this power. You can only do this once per round, and the Acolytes are not terribly valuable as figures, as attacking figures, so reviving one, I mean, it's an extra body the opponent has to take out, and I guess you could indefinitely revive them if you keep your game going, but I don't know, once per round, I think this sounds better than it actually will be in the game, but I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. Anyway, I think that's I think they're going to be more of a fun unit than a competitive one, but I'm happy to be wrong, and either way, I'm going to have a blast playing them. Revna is... I'm standing by it. Like, Revna is my faction right now. It's the one I'm vibing with the most, and I will be very excited to get a bunch of these guys and play them alongside... not him. I could. But next to Kilkarax and Mizerix. It'll be thematic and I think a lot of synergy. So... yeah, anyway, that's the Revnan Acolytes. Beautiful sculpts, and I'm just happy that the Revna faction is getting development in the way that it is. So, okay, I think that is now the end of the main releases, the main set releases. We're now moving into the promo figures, or the organized play figures. So these are the figures that they'll all be eventually available, as Renegade has confirmed. Every one of these figures you're seeing will eventually be available. But these guys, they will come as promos for pre-orders or as for organized play. So going to like a local tournament that's sanctioned by Renegade, and the Renegade is supporting the store for it. Editor Doggin here. So I goofed. I failed to read on these two bios for these two promo figures that they are both organized play promos, so they'll be available if you attend Renegade sanctioned local tournaments. They'll be handed out at those. Of course, they'll be available later on for purchase if you're not able to get them at those events. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify that here, that yeah, I did mess up and I forgot to clarify that yes, these are organized play promos. Let's start off with Deco the Burrowbreaker. Burrowbreaker? That's a beak, right? You know? Burrowbreaker. Decker the Burrowbreaker. Another unit that we knew about from Avalon Hill. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe in Avalon Hill he was considered a common hero. Actually, there is one other unit I forgot to talk about. We got a couple others we got to talk about actually. We'll finish up Decker here. Oh yes, the Grave Grim. Let's not forget him. We'll go ahead and do Decker since we're talking about him. So Decker the Burrowbreaker, I believe he was a common unit at the time, or he was like an unnamed, an ordinary dude. He did not have a proper name in the Avalon Hill campaign, but Renegade has decided to make him a unique hero. It's fine by me. Let me say up front, in terms of all the cards that I've seen so far, I think in terms of mechanics, this is the one I'm most excited to play. It's specifically for the drill dive special attack, but we'll get into that. Let's go ahead and talk about. He's a Vorid. Oh, hey, I was talking earlier about we need more smaller medium Vorid figures. Well, here you go. Here's another one to play around with the Vorid faction. So this is a figure specifically because he's got pretty high survivability and a special attack that I really am excited to play with. He is going to be someone I would be very happy to rescue with Air Marshal here. So like, I want to protect him so I can keep using his drill dive special attack so I can skyhook him out of danger. So yeah, very excited to play with that. So he's got 5 life, 4 defense, 20 survivability. He's a tough boy. For only 65 points, that's pretty good survivability, I gotta say. 5 move is good. Range 1, he's melee, and then attack 3, it's average, but again, it's not necessarily the reason to use him. So he's got underground movement, which he shares with the Earth Elemental from D&D Heroscape. So it's kind of like flying, except you're going underground. Essentially, you don't have to concern yourself with movement. You don't have to concern yourself with elevation up to a certain point. Flying, you don't have to ever concern yourself with elevation. Here, you don't have to concern yourself with it up to a point. So instead of moving normally, you may place him on an empty, non-water space within 4 spaces of Decker that is no higher than 6 levels above or 3 levels below Decker's level. So a flying figure would not have that concern, right? It could just go where it pleases. And of course, a flying figure can use its full movement. Underground movement, you are restricted to only 4 spaces, just as with the Earth Elemental. I do like that. The Earth Elemental has a base move of 4 and underground movement, so there's rarely ever a time when you would not move with underground movement. But here, this forces a player to think, do I move normally, or do I move with... Do I move normally, or do I move with underground movement? There is at least a trade-off in terms of 1 less space of potential move there. So, but still, this gives him mobility. This does still make him pretty mobile up to a certain level cap right there. And then this is what I'm most excited about. In terms of special powers in this wave, I think I'm most excited to play this. So, range special attack 4. Instead of moving and attacking normally with Decker, you may move him up to 5 spaces in a straight line. When moving with drill drive special attack, Decker may pass through figures and does not take leaving engagement attacks from figures he passed through. After moving, roll attack dice once for all figures passed through that turn. Each figure rolls defense dice separately. Defending figures never have height advantage against drill dive special attack. How fun is that? You just pick figures in a straight line, you charge, you rush right through them, and then once you've finished, every single one of them has to defend against 4 attack. How competitive? I don't care. I don't care how competitive it is. It sounds fun, man. It just, you go in one direction, charge, and then go in another direction, just like darting around the map, pinballing around the map, and affecting a huge number of figures for attack is very respectable. I don't know. And the fact that he doesn't take any leaving engagements, as he moves through this, so he could just charge through. Imagine like a mob of Grut Orcs, just a huge cluster of Grut Orcs. You just barrel through them, and none of them can swipe at you. You just charge right through them, and you can affect a whole area for it. I don't know. I don't know. It just sounds like pure joy, and I'm super excited to play with him. I think mechanically, he's the one I'm most excited to play with of this wave of releases. So there's not much more to say about him other than he looks like a ton of fun, and I think this could have some utility in a competitive scenario, maybe at Delta points, but still. Anyway, very excited to get my hands on him. Let's go into what is it? Where is our Grave Grim? Where's our boy Grave Grim? I pulled him up somewhere. Where is he? Oh, we'll get to her in a second. There we go. All right, the Grave Grim. Yes. So before we get into the big reveal, or what I consider to be the biggest reveal of this wave, let's talk about the Grave Grim. This is now, I think, Renegade's first common hero. So yet another common squad. So just this kind of demon wolf, or this hound of hell, this hound of the dead. He's got a little Revna emblem on his collar here, which I'm very happy about. Let's just go ahead and check out his card here. So yes, he is a common hero. He is a common hero, and this is the first common hero released in Age of Annihilation. Now, something I actually asked a Renegade dev about this, and I can't be the only one who spotted this. This is a multi-life hero, but classified as a common hero. Usually common heroes are one life, and then if a hero that you can draft in multiples, if a hero you can draft in multiples has multiple lives, it's considered an uncommon hero and is controlled by its own card, right? So it's unusual here because you would track your wound markers on that specific unit's card. So I was curious, why was common hero? Why was it classified as common hero if it has multiple lives? And the idea is, if we've already opened up the space of multi-life squad figures like the bears or the Necrotech Wraith Riders, then why not do it for common heroes? The important difference here is, as a common hero, you could have 6 Grave Grims in your army. They will all be controlled by a single army card. So you can put all of your order markers on this card, and you can activate whichever Grave Grim you want, regardless of what wounds it's taken. So that is an advantage that the Grave Grim has over classic uncommon heroes. The other cool thing about being an uncommon hero is cannot be mind shackled. It's a common hero. So uncommon heroes can be shackled because they're, aside from the fact that they can be drafted in multiples, they are for all intents and purposes considered unique heroes. So if you had Iron Golems, 3 Iron Golems, if Nigoxa was running around, he could shackle all of them. Common heroes, you can't. So Grave Grim, even though he's got lives, he cannot be shackled. So that's another important distinction there. I think the designer said they just wanted this to feel like a common hero, just a hero figure you draft in multiples, in large numbers, and that doesn't eat up a lot of your points. Only 40 points. Yeah, so let's go ahead and look at the powers. So 2 life, or the stats. Let's start with the stats. Oh, no, let's not. Let's start over here with the, I guess, attributes or characteristics. He is an omen, or it is an omen. It's interesting. There are, as far as I know, no abilities, no synergies related to omen units. And then as a guard, this is important for people who like the guard class. I'm looking at you, Clay, if you're watching this. If as a guard unit, you can buff his move to 7 if you have Warden 816 in your army. And also importantly, as a guard, for any VC fans out there, we have the Crypt Guardian. It's so weird. I feel like every time I do one of these videos, I somehow find myself talking about the Crypt Guardian. So let's go ahead and pull him up. So he has the Royal Escort ability. When revealing an order marker on this Guardian, after taking its turn, you may take a turn with one other Guard hero or Queen hero you control, but specifically Guard hero. You could have a bunch of mummies bonding with a bunch of Grave Grims. So we'll go ahead and close out Decker there. But yeah, so it's a cool synergy, but is it one you would want to do? I don't necessarily think so, but you could do it, and we'll talk about why I don't think you should. We'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, with that, and the it's a large, so it's got certain immunities, and watchful. Watchful is its personality, and I believe that is the first instance of watchful in official Heroscape. 2 life, 6 move, so pretty fast, makes sense. And then this is great too. 4 life, 4 defense. So kind of like a slightly beefed up Diminutive Guard, you know? A lot of common heroes have that stat line, 6-1-4-4. Drow Chainfighter has that as well, but 2 lives, 40 points, so a little bit more expensive than a Chainfighter or a Diminutive, but still, yeah, it's a good stat line for a cheap hero like this. Now let's talk about Guide of the Dead. After revealing an order marker on and before taking a turn with a Gravegrim, you may move up to 6 small, medium, or large undead or Izanok figures you control up to 3 spaces each. So, this is why you wouldn't necessarily... I mean, you could have Crypt Guardians here, but a Crypt Guardian, if you were bonding with a Gravegrim, if you're using the Royal Escort with Gravegrim, you could, on that Gravegrim's turn, you could not do Guide of the Dead. You have to reveal the order marker on the Gravegrim's card. What I like here is small, medium, or large undead. So if we pull up undead, I think there's a pretty sizable. It's actually probably better just to go to species. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, so there's a huge roster of undead figures to choose from. I won't go over all of them here, but it is worth noting that some of these undead are actually maybe one of them, maybe just one. Small, medium, large, undead, or Izanok figures you control. We'll talk about the Izanok, but specifically 6 small, medium, large, undead. There is an undead figure from VC, that is the Zombie Hulk, so you could move a Zombie Hulk with the Gravegrim, and I think that's kind of cool. I don't play so much with the zombies or the Zombie Hulk, so I don't know how excited zombie players are about this power. I'm sure somewhat, but anyway, I can't speculate too much on it, but you can do that. You know, this has an application for VC Heroscape as well. But I also like here Izanok figures you control. I like this from a thematic or lore standpoint because it's essentially saying even though the Izanok look like robots, there's something necrotic about them. It's even in the name, Necrotech Wraith Riders, you know? There's something death-like about they're not Soulborgs, they're not robots. They are weird amalgamations of cybernetics and like dead tissue, you know. So anyway, I think that's a cool angle for the Izanok to take from a lore standpoint. And you can move them all 3 spaces each. So 6 figures moved 3 spaces each. That's a lot of movement, and you just get it. You don't have to roll for anything like Sir Gilbert. You just reveal an order marker on the Gravegrim, and you move 6 undead figures of your choice. It's a great deal of board development. Personally, I don't know what to think of it. Personally, I just don't know what to make of it. Is it fun? I'm certain it will be fun, but I don't know what the competitive viability of it will be, or how much it'll influence the competitive landscape, or what impact it'll have on competitive Heroscape. But it's still really cool to have like this giant hell dog leading an army of zombies out, or you know, you could even do like the Essen Lines or the Thralls from VC Heroscape. Anyway, you have a ton of figures to play with this Guide of the Dead power, including Izanoks. So yeah, anyway, that's very cool. And then there's this ability here, Harrowing Presence. When an opponent rolls the 20-sided die for a special power on one of their army cards, if one or more of that army card's figures are within 3 spaces of a figure you control with the Harrowing Presence special power, they must subtract 3 from the roll. So this is very simply, it's like it's a debuff aura on special D20 based special powers. Cool. When you don't necessarily play your whole game around it, I would think. But I guess if one or more, let's see, control is within within spaces of a figure you control with the Harrowing Presence special power. My read of this is that it does not stack, so you could not surround something with Gravegrims and like completely subtract its subtract by like 9 or 12. Does it stack? Am I reading that correctly? I don't know. If it stacks, that's very impressive. My read is that you can only do it once, but I guess there's nothing here that says it doesn't stack. If one or more of that Army cards figures are within 3 spaces of a figure you control with the Harrowing Presence special power. They must subtract. Yeah, I don't know. It's not clear to me just from that, so I'd be curious what anyone thinks about that. That'd be very impressive if it stacks. I gotta say that. But I know Leo, my esteemed opponent, Leo is very excited about the Grave Grim, and so I hope, Leo, whenever I face you in the next tournament, or in a future tournament, if you get your hands on the Grave Grim, I would love to play against you with Grave Grims in your army. So yeah, that's our first common hero for Age of Annihilation. Now I want to finish off with what I think is the big reveal from a lore standpoint. This is the 4th incarnation of Raelin, the Kyrie warrior. The 4th incarnation. So she breaks the record. No other figure in Heroscape has had 4 incarnations, and that's fine. She's an OG. She's from the original Master Set. This is great. So here it says she's a promo. I don't know if it says she's an organized play promo. I know Decker has his. Let's see, where is Decker? Promos and organized play. Does it say here if here it just says Decker is a promo, and here it just says Raelin is a promo. So it's not clear to me if this is a organized play promo, which of them is which, or which of them is a pre-order promo. In any case, promo figure. I've been talking for forever, and so if you're still watching, I'm very grateful to you. But I do want to have a little rant about Raelin's place in the lore and why this reveal has made me incredibly happy and excited. So Raelin, for those who followed Classic Heroscape, in the original story, she was briefly possessed by Kimoshi, the Mara War Witch. I think the Kimoshi put an amulet around her neck that allowed Kimoshi to possess her. And so briefly, a possessed Raelin was working for Utgar and specifically for Kimoshi under her control. But Sergeant Drake, who is Raelin's closest friend, in the story, Drake cut the amulet off of her neck and freed Raelin from its power. So there was, I think, when Age of Annihilation revealed that Raelin would be returning, but for a long time we all thought, like, oh my god, she's been possessed again? Like, how did that happen a second time? That's crazy, you know? So I understand why. I think I understand why the developers made an official evil Raelin, essentially as fan service, because there was a picture, I think, of Craig Van Ness. He had his own evil Raelin, which was just a repaint of the classic Raelin, and there's an image of it, I think, on the wiki you could see on his shelf. And so there was a lot of people would make their own evil version of Raelin, like a red-winged Raelin from a repaint of the classic figure. So for a lot of people who like Utgar units or Utgar builds, it gives them a way to have evil Raelin in the kind of a lore-accurate evil Raelin in their army. So releasing evil Raelin in an official capacity, I understood at the time as a kind of fan service, but in the lore I was like, come on, how did you get possessed again? That's ridiculous. And so I was just kind of like, I wasn't a big fan of it. This reveal here says Raelin was never possessed that second time. She was actually using it as a cover. She was playing the opposing force. So this is her new sculpt here. But she was playing Utgar and that entire faction. She said, like, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to make them think that I'm possessed and make them think I'm on their side, so I can infiltrate them, infiltrate their ranks, rise up through the ranks, and get close to Utgar to strike at him. So that, I thought, was an amazing twist. It addressed a concern I had. It's like, yeah, of course she wouldn't let herself get possessed a second time. Like, she knows the game this time. She knows what's going on. She knows Kimoshi's tricks a second time. So I think not only does this make Raelin I feel like just a stronger character and a more, like, powerful character that she can resist Kimoshi's power. Uniquely, she can resist Kimoshi's power. But it also explains. It gives us an excuse to have an official evil Raelin while also acknowledging that good Raelin is back, and she's where she needs to be. Raelin has always been Jandar, and I'm just so happy to see that she's come home. But she's come home with a vengeance. She is vengeful. She is freaking angry, and I love it as a twist. So let's talk about her. So she's a Kyrie warrior. She's vengeful. That's her new personality. Same spear as she's had in the past, and her stats are the same. Same as her previous 2 incarnations. Her original incarnation was 5 life. So yeah, her stat line has not changed. 6 life, 6 move, 1 range, 3 attack, 3 defense. Her price tag has adjusted. She's 105 points. She got rid of that Manticore. I'm sorry. I know people like the Manticore. I thought Raelin looked goofy on it, but maybe she was just riding it to infiltrate Utgar. So you know what? If that was her thing, you go get him. You go get him, Raelin. So anyway, she's lost the Manticore and maintains her same survivability, 105 points. This is where Raelin, I just think this is great. This is a great example of the story informing the card. Unyielding. Other players cannot gain control of, move, or take turns with Raelin the Kyrie Warrior. She's just completely immune to mind shackling, completely immune to possession. Because of her original ordeal with Kimoshi, she developed that, a resistance to it. She cannot be controlled. So Nigaxa, Kimoshi, if she was to face them again on the battlefield, she has nothing to fear. And Mind Flayers too. If I understand it, if she went up against a Mind Flayer, the Mind Flayer couldn't enslave her and take control of her. If a Werewolf Lord slashed her and infected her with lycanthropy, as far as I understand, she cannot be controlled by Moon Frenzy. So there's all those units that can, and Doctor Doom, if you're playing with the Marvel units, Doctor Doom would not be able to mind link or mind exchange with her. So I think that's great, and it makes her kind of like an intimidating figure, especially for the someone on the receiving end of the spear. Like, she is not going to waver. Nothing can stop her. So anyway, that's great. She has her Whirlwind Assault, which she had in her Swarm the Morrow incarnation. That's a fine callback to that. Then here's where she's different this time. Vengeful Swoop 8. Once per turn, after another figure you control within 4 clear side spaces of Raelin defends against a normal attack from an enemy figure, if they received 1 or more wounds, you may place Raelin on an unoccupied space adjacent to the attacking figure, roll a d20. If you roll an 8 or higher, that figure receives 1 wound. Raelin does not take leaving engagement attacks when moved by Vengeful Swoop. So, once again, every incarnation of Raelin has some kind of aura ability. Her first 2 incarnations, it was a defensive aura. Her evil version, it was a defense or a defense or attack. It was a debuff. It was an aura that debuffed a certain stat. I forget which off the top of my head. And then here, this is like kind of an auto wound aura. It's very interesting. I don't think we've seen anything quite like this yet in Heroscape. But anytime your figure receives a wound from an attacking figure, from an enemy figure, if they receive a figure you control. So basically she is there standing by protecting everyone around her, and as soon as she sees that one of her allies has been injured, she says, "Oh, F that," and she immediately drops everything she does and she jumps and delivers a vengeful strike to avenge that injury that her ally sustained. So 8 or higher, that's it's an auto wound ability, so that's great. And it's an auto wound ability that can trigger on the opponent's turn. So the opponent could do this to themselves. The opponent against their wishes could activate Raelin, and she could come in and stab. So 8 or higher, that'll happen a lot of the time. Do a lot of auto wounds a lot of the time. And let's see. There is no size limit. So let's say, what if a Deathwalker inflicted the wound? Raelin could jump on that Deathwalker, roll the 8 or higher, and kill it right then and there. If I'm reading that right, from a defends against a normal attack from an enemy figure. So it's only normal attacks, but still, lots of attacks in Heroscape are going to be normal. And I have to say, I'm more impressed with this Raelin from a lore standpoint than a mechanical standpoint. I think it remains to be seen how powerful Vengeful Swoop is going to be. I'll be certainly excited to get my hands on this new Raelin, just because I like this. I like the twist. I like the twist that, I don't know, it's great character development, and I'm so glad she's back with Jandar. It's like she's come home and she's with her friend Drake, and it's like, we'll get the band back together, so I'm very happy about that. I am curious why she has red wings. Did her tenure infiltrating Utgard, did that stain her wings, or has she always had red wings? And because her wings were armored in previous incarnations, so did she always have red wings? It's a very striking image too, the blue and the red. Anyway, I'm very happy with this from a story standpoint, and I'll be very happy to get my hands on the figures. Yeah, so anyway, folks, that is all of the, let's go ahead and pull up Boiling Tension here, all of the units here, so we have it up on screen. That's all of the units from that have been released in this wave of Age of Annihilation. The Renegade panel, the Renegade episode, that stream, they did release the very exciting news that there's going to be G.I. Joe Heroscape, which I can't even imagine. I think it's, if Marvel fits into Heroscape, this is going to fit in great. So I'm very excited to see what they do with the G.I. Joe line that's coming out. But anyway, we won't spend too much time talking about it here. I've taken up enough of your guys' time already. If you watched the video, thank you for sticking around and listening to me ramble about a game I love. I hope you all found this insightful, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on these units and anywhere that I might have gone wrong or misspoken, or anything you think, any takes that you think I had that were wrong, or anything of that. I always read your guys' comments, and I really enjoy learning from you guys and seeing what you guys think. So anyway, have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. As always, folks, take care, stay safe, and escape on.